Let's get an understanding of this from Dr. Ishwar Gilada, who's joining us on the broadcast. He's an infectious disease expert and Secretary General at the Organized Medicine Academic Guild. Dr. Gilada, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us on Mirror Now. First of all, help us understand, that AstraZeneca has finally, of course, admitted to allegations that were against it. But what does it mean? Will there be now strict action against the company? How does this move forward? And what do they mean when they say this rare disease called TTS?
Thank you very much for having me on show, Shreya. Basically, let your viewer understand that not everybody who has taken this vaccine is at risk. The risk, what is stated, is between 1 in 50,000 to 1 in 1 lakh. And what happens is when you are injecting a jab or a vaccine in muscle, sometimes it can enter a bloodstream. And once it enters a bloodstream, this particular vaccine, which is created through a harmless flu virus, which is called adenovirus from chimpanzee. So then they have an attraction or affinity for proteins. And there is a protein called platelet factor 4. So once this particular genetically engineered vaccine product attracts with that protein, that the platelet factor 4 is considered by our body that is a virus attack. Once they consider it as a virus attack, then they start clumping together. And when they clump together, there is a thrombosis. That means a clot. And the platelet count goes down. And if that happens in brain, there can be a permanent damage, which has happened to one of the litigants. So this is a very rare condition. This was initially noticed within months after the vaccine started being used in 2021. And it was also understood after some time that it can cause, but because we were looking at a larger good, because if suppose there is no vaccine and people will be dying of COVID, then we have to outweigh what is the risk and what is the benefit. So if benefit is more, then the risk is outlook. Number two, the other problem is that this vaccine or any other vaccines were cleared in a clinical trial mode. They were given a fast track approval. And when the real approval came, then we realized that what can happen in reality, in larger sense.
Dr. Gilada, then who is more susceptible to actually suffering from this? Because like you said, post this vaccine, when Covishield came and there were a lot of people who got it, there were a lot of cases, not just of blood clots, but say cardiac arrests or even immediate, fever was, a reactionary response from the body. But otherwise, a lot of illnesses that were reported from people who took Covishield, say, is then susceptible to this kind of a rare disease.
So what has happened from Covishield, it has also happened to some other extent from other vaccines also. It is not only Covishield. Even from mRNA vaccine, also some kind of side effects happen. So whenever any drug or any medicine is taken, any vaccine is taken, there are bound to be side effects. But when it's a very planned trial, then there's a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and post-marketing analysis, which is phase 4. In this case, at phase 2 only, it was licensed. When phase 2 it is licensed, then we know that there are going to be some adverse effect. But we have to decide whether we can outweigh that side effects. And secondly, during that period, the companies were given understanding by government that if anything happens, government will take care of it. So it is an entire shift. Onus was shifted to governments, respective government, that anything happens, government will look after you. Please take the vaccine. So at that time, anti-vaxxers has to be looked after. Larger pandemic has to be looked after. So lot of issues were there. But now when the issues come, point by point basis, case by case basis, we need to settle them. We need to ensure people that they are given justice.
Okay, my last question to you, Dr. Gilada, and help me understand how this case will move forward now. Now, it's a legal battle, of course, which has been going on. But when the company does admit to such a thing that can exist, that a rare disease like this can happen due to its vaccine, what happens next? How does it move forward?
It will move forward to a case-by-case basis only. It will not be for everybody. So those who will come forward with any kind of established problem, they will be compensated. The government of UK had compensated them like 150,000 pounds each person who had died or who had a permanent disability up to 60%. But that was not enough to look after the entire life. So in this case, if the case by case basis they are able to prove, and now in this case company has agreed that there was a problem, then I think there will be a higher compensation and people will be benefited through this compensation.
All right. Dr. Ishwar Gilada, thank you very much for joining us on Nation Tonight and helping us understand this very concerning admission that AstraZeneca has now made. We'll have to see, of course, how it moves forward. But thank you very much for joining us tonight.